And it always takes a second to go in. And hey, yay, we've got another Global Podcast Editors live chat. After a very crazy technical morning, or afternoon, or wherever you are, few minutes, we are all live and here. And yay to all of that. Thank you to everybody who is in the chat room or watching this later on. I'm quickly going to tell you a little bit about the Global Podcast Editors community and this event, and then we'll stay here and meet our two guests for today that'll join us in a discussion. So basically, Global Podcast Editors is a global community, not to be redundant, but a global community of podcast editors that like to talk about the technical and the business aspects of doing this either for a side hustle or as your full-time gig as freelance or a small business. We have a newsletter over on Substack. We have a private LinkedIn group, and these events that happen every 2 weeks. And the podcast is coming back as well. The podcast version of these events and more is coming back very soon. So we've got a few different spaces where we have our stuff and our wisdom. And by our, I mean all of you that participate in this, because I'm like this much and you guys are just amazing. I'm so thrilled that Mark and Punith are joining me today, and that editors give up their very, very precious time to have these chats with us every 2 weeks. Okay, that's enough about that. Let's go around and in the event, actually, we talk about what we're working on that week. We're pinging off of Austin Kleon's book, Share Your Work, or Show Your Work. I should probably remember the title. It's a fantastic book about sharing your process, not just the product and not just the successes, but what you do with your time and all of the things that happen while you're trying to do it. And so we're staying in the present as much as possible. So let's go around and meet our editors for today. Punith, can you start us off, please?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Punith Shenoy. I'm from India. I'm a podcast editor / engineer, and currently going on into the role of producer as well. I think that's pretty much it. Do you want me to, share my clients list as well, the shows that I worked on and stuff?
Whatever you want to share.
Okay. Some of my clients include Young and Profiting Podcast, True Underdog Podcast, Door Roller Money Podcast, and also some shows for Blinkist. Yeah, that's me.
And I muted myself. Mark.
I'm Mark, obviously. I live in England, in the west part of the West Midlands, if anybody knows England, Shropshire. I came to doing this because I used to be a black taxi driver in London. Many people know that job, and it's usually the thing that everybody talks to me about. Yes, exactly. And I've always been involved in radio. I did pirate radio back in the day, back in the early 80s, and just love audio and radio. And then my wife said to me, what do you really want to do with your life? When the black cab thing looked like it was going to collapse because of COVID, long before that, but it's all part of it. And I said, I'd love to work on radio. She said, well, why don't you go off to university? So I did an MA in audio and radio production. And then when the black cab job completely disappeared at the beginning of COVID, I started doing this, and my wife put the word out through her network of businesses. Straight away, I got one client, and then I got another client, and now I think I've got about 6 now. Been going 2 years, and I've got 2 currently active podcasts going, which I'm working on at the moment, and then there's 3 in the pipeline. And then I went to a meeting yesterday, and 3 people walked up to me and said, "We want to do a podcast. How do you do that?"
What?
So,
okay, let's talk about getting clients when we start in the main bit, because that's
Okay.
interesting, and that is something that comes up a lot. So I would love to dig into that with
Yeah.
both of you. But let me do my quick intro. I've been practicing. No, I haven't actually. Anyway, I was a podcaster for about 3 years before the pandemic hit, and I was job searching in Germany, and I thought I would. People started to approach me, as they do Indian podcasters, and said, "Hey, do you know anybody that can edit my podcast, or would you like to do it?" So I started to do it as a kind of fill gap kind of measure. And I realized that I really like editing other people's stuff way more than my own. Not because of my voice, because I know some people say women hate their voices. Not true. Not true for everyone.
I think we all hate our voices.
I
Yeah.
I actually like my voice, but it was just the creative distance. When I edit their stuff, I can give them feedback and I'm not creatively attached to it. I'm not annoyed with them. I'm just like, hey, maybe try this next time. Or I can take stuff out without having that, oh, why did I do that moment? And so I really started to get into it more. And accidental turned into intentional. And and so I've got like my podcast editing business. I write about podcasting and I've got some other things in the burner. So podcast editing isn't my full-time gig, but for me, I have a full workload right now. I'm not the type of person that can juggle like 10 clients at a time or anything. That's a lot. But yeah, so I am a podcast editor and other stuff. And currently I'm in Split, Croatia.
Wow.
So we are kind of near each other globally, comparatively.
Well, I'm in Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I say we're in Europe. We are in Europe, but anyway, we won't go into the political
I
side
know,
of living in the
I know.
United Kingdom. It's not a good day today, believe me. I won't tell you the news, but it's unpleasant to say the least. But there we go.
Yeah, I uncertainty. I almost want to dive into that, but let's talk about let's start with what we're working on right now. Just a brief overview of what projects or podcasts you're working on. And then we'll go into the getting clients thing, and maybe we'll hit on the uncertainty because that's niggling at me too. If you want to share that, and if that's a thing that happens. So that's kind of the roadmap that might happen, but we'll see. Okay. What are you working on right now? And just a general summary of the kinds of projects that you do, because some podcast editors do more than just podcasts, right? So what have you been working on this past week, Mark?
Well, I think I mentioned before we started recording, I've got a recording at 10 o'clock this morning for one of my current podcasts. It's a thing called Louise's Health Kick podcast. It's a lovely lady from the Midlands again, who runs a health kick thing. She's written some books. She's got awards for it, and I edit and top and tail and all that her podcast for her. I do a sort of a production job on it really as well, because I give her lots of advice about structure and what, how to, not how to interview people, but what not to miss basically. But she's really good, and I love it when you get clients and they're really articulate and you have to do very little actual editing in the context of you don't have to take anything out and move anything about. She's really good at structure. So I've got that one, and that'll probably go out, I think next week she's talking about, but I haven't looked at her schedule today. And then I'm also editing. I've got a really, really good client who's done loads of work with me, and then he stopped me recording stuff and got his video guy to record it. And he recorded 4 in a row, and they were shocking. I mean, the audio was so bad, and I didn't want to put them out, and I didn't put my name at the end of them either. And I said, look, and he said, no, we'll put these out. But what I noticed is his downloads plummeted because the audio was so bad, and it's just beginning to recover now. Because then the video guy still records them, but I gave him a load of advice on what equipment to get, and he's done a really good job.
Can we dig into that? What was so bad about the audio?
There was no mic discipline, because when I'm there, I will stop and say, you're doing this, or you're doing this, or you're breathing, or, and also I recorded single tracks. I used the Rodecaster Pro, the mixer thing, and recorded individual tracks, which was fine, because if someone was breathing, I can just cut it all out because they're not talking. On this one, he records everything on one track. So I've still got this breathing issue, which you can get rid of a bit, but it's not easy. The other thing is they're very stuttery and and ahry. So I will probably do in a half an hour thing. I can't remember how I counted it up. 90 edits, maybe a bit more than that. And then you've got to put a speech volume leveler on it, which brings all the breathing up and all the breaths in between. So then I've got to try and I don't cut them out because then it sounds weird then, I think. I hate noise gates. I'm not a fan of a noise gate because I think it makes things sound really unnatural. So I try to leave a certain amount of background in. But yeah, sorry. And it was just awful. They were too far away from the mics. There was a massive echo, and there's only so much you can do with bad audio, as we know.
It's interesting you mentioned You mentioned breaths because of the How Sound podcast by Transom and PRX just did a well, it wasn't meant to be hilarious, but I thought it was a hilarious episode on breaths where they took out they played a few different clips of actual podcasts that had the breaths taken out, and it was just I was cringing trying to get to
Yeah.
their narration, not to listen to that part, and I was like, no, please stop taking, or if you take them out, leave the space, like do something.
Yeah.
Don't just make someone talk like that. It's just
Well,
maddening.
my technique, because I put a speech volume level on it because people are obviously all different levels,
Mhm.
and it brings all the breaths up as well. So what I
Mhm.
do is I use Adobe as my software because that's what I learned on, and I think it's fantastic. I love it. I put it into the multi-track, and then I chop the beginning and the end of the breath and bring it down individually. So it's still there, but it's quieter. Now it's a very laborious process,
Mhm.
but I've now got the technique of I can actually whiz through it quite quickly. Like
Mhm.
anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I found that really works, and nobody's ever mentioned it sounds bad or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm
So
surprised that they don't have a way to search for a particular sound and to replace it with.
oh, they do,
space.
but it's something I need to sit down and actually go through. It's quite a complicated process. There's a brilliant YouTube video by the people at Music Radio Creative, Mike Russell,
Mhm.
and he has a partnership with Adobe, and he does all these instructional videos. And there is a way of capturing the sound. So you cut all the breaths together, you
Mhm.
capture the sound, and then it'll take them out. But I don't want them taken out.
Well, I mean,
because
replace it with just silence, so then you can just adjust it
Yeah, but
as
then
you
it sounds
go.
like you've got a noise gate, and noise gates make everything sound unnatural.
Mm.
The world has noise. And
Yes.
the thing with me is trying to make it sound natural.
Yeah.
So if there is a little tiny bit of an echo, nothing that's going to be distracting, I
Mhm.
tend to leave that in. I tend to leave a bit of noise in that context. I don't like dead rooms because
Mhm.
unless you've got, expensive condenser mics and stuff, I just think it sounds
Yeah.
unnatural. And
Okay,
it's not a
Puna.
radio show, it's a podcast. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Punis, what do you do with breaths?
I use RX. I use a plugin called Dbreath from RX. So it's just and it not gets rid of. I mean, it lets you control the level that you want to reduce the breath with. So
Mhm.
Yeah, what's that called again? Tell me what that's called, because I'll have a look into that.
it's Dbreath. It's from a company called Isotope RX.
Is it RX 7, 8, 9?
I'm using 8 right
8.
now.
Okay, so RX 8.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the deep breath.
Yeah.
I
And
think I've seen that on something. Yeah.
I think Waves also has one, which is quite relatively very cheap. I mean, RX, I think you have to buy the entire
Mhm.
and can't buy the individual plugins. So I think that would be a slightly more expensive option. But Waves has a individual plugin called Dbreath.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I only have one little issue with things like that, and that's again, I think it's the naturalness of it. If you get something AI to do something, I'm not. It's like Descript. They go on about their studio thing. It's awful. I think it sounds dreadful.
I think that's why I know a lot of people say you do the content editing or the dialogue editing and then do the sound stuff afterwards. But I like to do it first because if it sounds bad while I'm listening, I can change stuff as I go. So yeah, and I tend not to use Descript for like filler words or stuff like that. I haven't used the studio editor because I let go after I just discovered I don't really like how they remove the filler words.
Yeah.
Then I just stopped using it. So yeah.
Well, I tried it on that really bad audio, and the trouble is, if it's bad audio originally, because there's so much missing, it can't cope with it. It doesn't know what to do. And you end up with something that sounds like some sort of weird robot.
Yeah.
And again, I really try and create natural sounds on these things.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. So Punith, what are you working on this week?
I'm working on majorly for Blinkist this week. Have you guys heard of the platform called Blinkist?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a show called Jordan Harbinger's show. So he's coming on over Blinkist, and I'm working on his show for Blinkist. So I really, really love the concept of Blinkist. I mean, it is such a simple concept.
Cool.
such a simple concept, but nobody has ever done that before. And I just love it. I just love it. And
For
especially
those
working.
who,
Yeah.
for those who aren't familiar, can you describe what they do?
I was going to say
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So Blinkist is a platform where you get like kind of like summaries of episodes of a podcast. So the content on Blinkist itself is called Shortcast. So they take out bits of content from a particular episode and then stitch it together and then put it out as one episode.
I
So
didn't realize
that's
they were doing that for podcasts. I knew they started out, I think, doing that for
for
books. They were
books.
having like summaries of books that I
Yeah.
always wanted to read. And I was like, this is so great.
Yeah.
Cheating. Yay.
Makes you sound very
Um,
well read.
yeah, exactly. Well, and you get the main, let's admit it. Some really seminal works that are really long don't need to be read cover to cover to get
Yeah.
the main ideas. So yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Any challenges in starting this new project?
For Blinkist?
Yeah.
Not particularly. I mean, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it's a different kind of workflow for me. I mean, for podcast episodes, you go on editing, like for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, however long the episode is. But in this, it's a very different workflow because it's like the host of a particular podcast. He records some segments, and then you have to pick certain segments from the actual full length episode, and then stitch it together, arrange them, blah blah blah. And yeah, kind of the biggest kind of like an obstacle that I would say I face is that most of the times the episodes that I receive are the final masters, right?
Mhm.
And they are both speakers on the same track. So if there is like the host most of the time will have good audio, whereas the guest most of the time will not have good audio.
Mhm.
So in order to process them separately, I have to sit and separate each like 10-second clip separate, then the host separate, then the guest separate, and then they process them separately. So that's kind of a time consuming process and not something that I particularly enjoy doing.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Ugh.
Sounds
Yeah,
quite
but there's
labour intensive, that one.
it does. It does. How long does the episode turn? Because it's a summary episode. How long is the total
Yeah.
episode usually?
It's not long. It's I think it's a maximum of 20 minutes, I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not.
Yeah.
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 And
But
do
if
you choose? Sorry, Steph.
no, go.
Do you choose the clips, or are they chosen for you?
That
Do
was
they
my
timestamp?
question.
Sorry.
No.
They choose it for us. Like they'll
Right.
give us like a script, and I have to go and find
And is it
those clips.
timestamped so you know exactly where you're going?
Exactly.
Lovely.
Yes.
That makes
That's
life a lot
so
easier.
cool. I love that. Okay. I want to slide into the next thing, even though I haven't answered my own question of getting clients. How did you find that job? If you're comfortable sharing that.
I was not approached by Blinkist, so I work mainly with a media company called Yap Media. So till date, my biggest client is Young and Profiting Podcast. So Young and Profiting Podcast is the number one education podcast across all apps in the world. So they are my biggest client, and the host of that podcast, her name is Hala. She owns a media company called Yap Media. So I work with Yap Media, and Yap Media has again several different clients under them.
Sure.
So through Yap Media, I got to work with Blinkist.
Connections. I love it. Mark, how about you? You said you went to a meeting earlier where
I do quite a lot of business networking.
Mhm.
So I don't know if the culture is the same in other countries, but we have these things where lots of small businesses get together and they have breakfast meetings or whatever. And yesterday was a breakfast meeting at I don't know if you know, it's a World Heritage Site, the Iron Bridge Museum, which is where the Industrial Revolution started. And they do this thing once every 6 weeks where they get people together. And I was chatting away, and a PR company spoke to me. We want to offer you as a service that we do as part of a marketing thing. And someone else from, I can't say too much about this.
Of course, yeah.
It's connected with the historical side of it. It's also said, yeah, I want some audio product done. And it literally, it's funny, you do your little spiel, you do a 2-minute thing. And you can see people looking at each other going, podcasting, never thought of that.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice because everybody knows about podcasting, but nobody knows how to do it. and they think, oh, I'll just record something into my iPhone and stick it on, I don't know, YouTube or whatever, and don't realise that the whole process you go through to actually create something that is properly mastered and has the right levels and everything else. And it seems to work out okay. So, but that's that. I got most of what I get is through connections. So my wife is a business advisor. She works in a government scheme, but not directly for the government. And she had a client who was chatting to her about podcasts. She went, oh, my husband does podcasts. So I got my best client I got through her, and then I got someone else through her as well. And then it sort of snowballs after that. And I find the more you get, if that makes sense. You know, I've got a fantastic thing about the airport coming up. That's the thing I was talking to you about earlier, when I thought they were going to exclude me, and they haven't. They've decided they're going to almost exclusively include me in the process. So that I'm really looking forward to that, because I think it's going to be fantastic. The guy who's doing it is so into it. He's worked at the airport 30 years and he loves it. And it's a whole start to finish process. So right from booking your flight to your case rolling off at the other end, and all the things in between. And he's already outlined a lot of episodes for that. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So that's how I get business. And networking is the main way. And through people, I do quite a lot of online networking as well.
Yeah, me too. None of the things that I put online specifically to get new clients have gotten me new clients. It's always been like word of mouth, or like I'm in a bunch of podcasting groups on Facebook, and I'll just answer questions there, and people find me because I leave a trace. You know, you leave your information and a picture of your DAW thingy behind you, and your profile picture and all this stuff, and they're like, I'm a podcast editor, and they go to my website and they find me. But and every time when I ask them and they tell me these things, I'm like, nobody's actually looking at my social media posts or any of my promotions. So I just stopped doing it. I'm like, forget it. I'll just be, it's more interesting to me to do the meetups or for me, it's online meetups because I'm geographically.
I've got a friend who also lives in this area, does what I do basically, but for a lot longer. He gets all his work exclusively through LinkedIn.
Yes. Yeah.
And he goes out and he actively adds people who are public speakers, lecturers, people who he thinks are going to want to get a message out there. Ooh. And he's got something like 16,000 connections or something crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, and he works, it's almost like a full-time job running his LinkedIn profile. Right. And he blogs every day and stuff. But I meet up with him quite regularly because he also does my music for me and things like that. Or I say that I'm using Epidemic, but I think I might move over to him because I can get bespoke then. But he, as I said, he's got everything from LinkedIn exclusively.
I believe that. I believe that.
I got most of my clients as well.
What, LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I can say more than 99% of my clients are from LinkedIn.
That makes a lot of sense. If you go and search podcast editor on LinkedIn, the small amount of people that have tagged themselves as that is really interesting. And
I still think we're in quite a niche business, to be honest.
Yep.
Although I think it just takes a lot of effort to start doing it. And also I think it's about because I've been to university twice and I did the Knowledge of London to be a black cab driver, which is the most laborious, toughest thing I've ever done. University was a walk in the park in comparison with becoming a cab driver.
Yeah.
And I think because I'm quite meticulous and a little bit obsessive, I think I've got the right mindset to do the job. Does that make sense? I'm not sure everybody has.
Tunis, what do you think? Do you think that's a characteristic of editors?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you just described us to a T. We're done here. Well, okay, that brings up a question. A lot of times it comes up in these chats and in the LinkedIn group, in our LinkedIn group, where are people coming in from? Because podcast editing is so new and podcasting is fairly new compared to other mediums, that folks are coming in from radio or journalism, if those are two different things, or from audio engineering for like music stuff, or just from being an independent podcaster, which is where I came in from. So how did you start out in podcast editing, Punis?
Mine is quite kind of like a cliche story, but I was actually a mechanical engineer. Then I dropped out of that because soon I realized that's not a thing that I want to do in my life. Then I got a certification from SAE, Australia. I mean, not I was not in Australia, but I got the certification with an affiliated university in India. So I got an SA certification for audio production, and then I was a music producer for almost like a year and a half,
Mhm.
and then everything was set. And my initial plan was to be a producer and a touring DJ, but
Ooh.
everything was all like set. I had all the connections. I had some shows booked for me and stuff like that, and I was supposed to start touring from April, right, of 2020. You know where I'm going.
Uh, yeah.
And then from March, lockdown hit, and everything was like upside down.
Yep.
And then kind of, crawled in the music space for the rest of 2020. And soon I realized, this, although I always want to be, connected to music, that's not something that I want to give up. But going full time as a music producer is not so easy, you know.
Mhm.
That's when I, got into podcast. That too again is a slightly different story, but because I was never interested in podcast before 2020, I never listened to podcast. Yeah, I never listened to podcasts before that, but a friend of mine, he introduced me to an episode on Joe Rogan. It was with Naval Ravikant,
Mhm.
and that changed everything for me. Like literally, I fell in love with podcast. Naval Ravikant in my life right now is one of my biggest idols. So
Aw.
that was literally like a turning point for me. And then I, thought like, okay, podcasters, I have skills in audio recording, post production, and most of the things that is required to produce a podcast. So why not put it to good use and make it my full time profession?
Mhm.
And it's not like I'm forced to do it. It's something that I enjoy. It's ultimately audio work. I enjoy
Yeah.
doing that. So yeah, that's when I started, and yeah, started randomly messaging people on LinkedIn. Like I was a total beginner back then. I didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, one message just clicked, and that was from Hala. She responded back, and yeah, it's been a crazy ride from then.
Yay, so we're both pandemic editors. Yay.
So am I as well. So
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I think I have the title of this podcast episode. Mark, you also did an MA in audio engineering,
I
right?
did an MA in audio and radio production at Birmingham City University.
Yeah.
That was I did that while I was still driving the cab, so I did it as a 2-year part-time MA. And what the reason I did it was because one, it was a quite hands-on practical one, as opposed to academic, although you still had to do the academic work. But I come, just very quickly, I come from a radio world. So I did pirate radio for years, and I still do a couple of, that's what all this stuff is here. It's my radio studio from home. And I still do a couple of shows now. But I worked in a world where it was all cutting tape and all that sort of thing. The editing was literally with a razor blade. And I wanted to know about audio, digital audio. That was the reason I did the MA. And that's sort of, once I realised that it was so much easier than cutting things with a razor blade, and it was all on the screen. And then when the pandemic hit, it just seemed the obvious thing to do. And it was really, my wife, she's very good at giving me a kick. I'm a dyslexic and a little bit OCD, so I tend to be a little bit scared of new things. And she's saying, look, don't be scared, you're good at what I mean, I've still got imposter syndrome, to be honest, and I think I will do forever. But
oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I have mild dyslexia too, and I think that's why I like the waveforms and why I kick at Descript, because the thought of intentionally bringing in more words when I can stare at a waveform kind of annoys me a little bit. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with the waveform. Thank you. I can zoom in and out, and it's great, and it never reverses on me. Like that's not an issue.
No,
So that's
exactly.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd gone through my first degree not knowing I was dyslexic. I knew I'd left school with no qualifications and stuff. But anyway, that's another story. I won't go into that.
Oh,
But
okay.
no,
I have a quick. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Because both of you come from music production into podcasting, so I'm very curious.
Radio production more me.
Or
I'm
radio
not a music
production.
producer. Yeah.
Not music. Oh,
No,
okay.
radio. I worked in radio.
So talk radio.
Sort yeah. Well, pirate radio, so it's a slightly different thing. But it was proper we used to broadcast. I've still got. This is one of my old transmitters just here.
Nice.
From the 1970s.
Okay.
Doesn't work, I don't think. I've not tried to fire it up. It's a bit illegal, really. But I come from doing radio shows. That's my
Okay. So I guess
background.
the biggest difference, because I came from being an independent podcaster into doing podcast editing. So for me, it was like, and all the while interview episodes. So the biggest transition was it not being me that I was editing. So I'm curious what the biggest transition was, Punith, for you from music, and Mark, from you for radio. So Punith, let's start from you. Like going from music to podcasting, what was the biggest culture shock?
Ah, I would
If
say
there
the
were
biggest
any.
one-
Oh, sorry.
there weren't many, but the biggest one was obviously, in music, it was all me who was to decide everything. I had like 100% freedom, what goes where, blah, blah, blah. But for podcast, I needed to follow a strict kind of, pattern. And it was more formal, podcast editing. And transitioning from music to, podcast, I think the biggest lesson I learned is that, while editing, it's not always about, it's not plain cuts and, ripple, delete, cut, blah, blah, blah. There needs to be a lot of, humanity. Okay, not humanity, what the hell?
No, that's
the human
great.
touch, the human touch that
Yeah.
needs to be preserved in speech, right? Early on in my podcast editing, I used to be just, okay, this doesn't fit well, remove it, blah. But over the period of time, I just realized that no, okay, even though there is a or a in between, if by removing it, it sounds unnatural, it's better to just keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
you think the same as me. It's about the flow. It's about how
yeah,
the whole thing
exactly,
sounds, and it's got to sound natural. It's got to sound like you've not edited it, basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I will spend far too long editing something to try and get a weird stutter out or something like that,
Yeah.
and to make it still sound like they're just talking naturally, like we are now.
Yep.
I
I'm
think the
obsessed.
biggest compliment I got from someone I really respect was when he said, I listened to the episode and I didn't even hear that it was edited. Like it didn't feel edited. And I was like, oh, score.
It's a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I lean on the side of taking out things that would distract a listener while keeping the person's speeching style. Geez, morning time, speech style, and like their personality in there. I don't want to clean it up to the point where they don't sound like them.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. And I mean, you get these things where they waffle a bit or whatever, but I can join stuff together to make it still sound like a proper conversation. But one thing I used to do, I don't do it so much now because of time really, but I used to then listen through at the end after I'd done the full edit, and then sit and scroll through my phone and stuff. So do what you would do if you were listening to the podcast, do something else.
Yeah.
And if anything throws itself out at me, then I'll go in and change it. But it's very rare that I found that. And
Can I share?
go on.
Can I share a naughty secret? The first like 15, 20 minutes of an episode, because a lot of my clients have like 60-minute episodes. The first 15, 20 minutes, I'm staring at the waveform and I'm changing things, I'm adjusting things and so on and so forth. And then I have it going and I answer emails and I look at other things and I get some very non-taxing things that I need to do done while I listen. And if something annoys me, then I go in and I
mild
take it out.
distractions, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But not from the beginning, because there's always the intro part and then there's the getting things just right. And then when it sounds good, then I cannot be staring at it the whole time.
I don't know if you have the same problem, Punith and Steph. I can be a little bit obsessed, though. That's the other thing. And stuff that I know normal people will not notice at all.
Ever.
And I'm going, oh my God. I say to my wife, did you not hear that? And she went, no. It's just so annoying because you get this weird, and I listen to other podcasts.
Yeah.
And I think, that's an edit. That's really bad. They've got the levels completely wrong there.
Oh, man. Yeah, completely. And I used to email my clients and go, well, I used to have I talked to them at the beginning, and then after a few episodes, I'd say, do these things bug you, or should I just leave them in there? Because I know that my ears were different than theirs, and they're like, I can't even hear what you're saying, is what they say most of the time. And I'm like, okay, we're good. That's fine. Because I was spending a lot of time removing them, and I will stop doing that now.
But it's funny. One thing, when I do live radio shows, I record all the radio shows I do because it helps you with getting better, basically. And I do a radio show, and I've done it live at 2 hours on the air live, and then I think, oh, that sounded like a car crash. It was dreadful. You listen back, sounds fine.
Yeah.
So what your impression of what's going on and the listener's impression is so different.
It's
And I think it's the same with podcasting as well.
Well, I need to circle back for a second. Punith, you said before you were working on before 2020, before that one episode, you didn't listen to podcasts. How about now? Do you listen to a fair bit of them now?
Oh yeah.
Not just the ones you're working on.
Yeah, I do.
Yay. And Mark, how big of a listener are you?
Not as big a listener as I should be, really, because I find that I'm working most of the time. So
yeah.
But I have things I go back to a lot, and I'm one of these people. I won't listen to something just for the sake of it, and I won't give it more than 5 minutes. If it's no good, it goes. The other thing is I never really go with anything over an hour. I try and keep my clients down to 30 minutes because I think there's a real concentration issue in the modern world where people can't really, I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and I was saying about, you want to make sure, and she was going, no, I was thinking 20 minutes. And I went, that's perfect. Because the other thing is I look at it in the context of, when do people listen? They're walking their dog, they're doing housework, they're driving to work, driving the kids to school. And that's sort of in half-hour chunks. If you think about it, it's sort of something that will take about that amount of time. Anything longer than that, and it means then they can listen to the whole thing. Although, Josh Rogan seems to do all right out of having 3 hours.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think a lot of people leave stuff in a podcast because they're scared to take it out because the guests might notice, or somebody, like, it's all precious. And it's like, now, as long as there's value the whole way through, I'm not as concerned with the length. But it's when they want to keep stuff in there that gives the listener nothing, that I'm like, no, that was fun, and that kind of warmed people up, or that was like a cool bonding moment for you all, but that's not really for the listener.
Yeah,
like that stuff needs to come out.
But people, like all the time, I try and stop people rambling, because often you get in jokes and things like that, which is to say mean nothing to the listener and just can be actually quite annoying. And I tend to steer people, especially when I'm doing the recording for them, I tend to steer them away from that sort of thing if I can.
We got a comment from Olaf, who I haven't forgotten you need to schedule your time, Olaf. Anyway, he said, I probably need these. He said, hi, all, great topics today. Thumbs up. Thank you very much, Olaf. Okay, we're getting short on time now, so let's go around and tell people where they can find us. I will have it in the video notes and show notes, depending on how people are consuming this, but some people don't read those. So let's tell them out loud. Where can they find you? Punith?
I have my new website. So basically, I'm starting my own production house here in India. So the website is up. It's called Podcast Pundits. I think Steph will link it in the description. And other than that, on socials, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Yeah.
Great. And Mark?
LinkedIn, Mark Wakely. And 1386 Audio's got a page on LinkedIn as well. I've got a website, which is 1386audio.com. But there are issues with the website, which I'm trying to get sorted out at the moment. It is active, but there are things on there. You click on one bit of audio and it's something completely different. So I'm trying to get that. I've had big issues with that. But LinkedIn and via the website, I said 1386audio.com. And my email address is markwakely@1386audio.com. Okay.
And Global Podcast Editors is obviously on YouTube. On Substack for the newsletter. For now, definitely on LinkedIn. We're not going to leave there, but Twitter and Instagram, I am toying with the idea of leaving those social medias for various reasons, mostly time. And not getting anywhere with them. It's noisy space. They're noisy spaces right now.
Yeah.
But for now, Global Podcast Editors is in those spaces. And we do this every 2 weeks. And if you'd like to be on here with us talking about the business and technical side of podcast editing in the newness and the messiness that the space is, we would love to have you. It's fine if you're in the United States. It's fine if you're outside of the United States. But I do try to mix it up so we have folks from around the globe. Because I one of my core tenets throughout my entire life, not just my podcasting life, is that I think we do things a little bit differently in different places, and it can kind of jumpstart us to see things, do things differently, and just be more creative in our endeavors. How's that for a soapbox moment? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you very much for everybody who joins us in the chat room during this, or for folks who are watching this later. Feel free to leave comments or reach out to us in any way that you want, and I will have Mark and Prunith's information in the video notes and show notes. Yay! Mark and Prunith, hang around for 1 second, and let's all say goodbye right now. Bye!